Hey everyone, I'm your host, Angela Wilkinson, and welcome to this episode of the Awakened Goddess Show. Today I'm joined by Aine Carlisle, and we're going to talk about how to be spiritual, sexy, and successful. Welcome, Aine, to the show.
Thank you for having me, Angela. I'm really, really excited to be here and to offer support and inspiration to your wonderful group of people. My whole passion in life has been spiritual and personal development. So that journey has taken me really all over the world where I have lived and studied with many awakened masters. I've lived in monasteries, I've lived in ashrams, and at one point I actually nearly became a Tibetan Buddhist nun.
Wow.
I know that's pretty trippy, So I was really that committed to spiritual and personal evolution. So my studies have been very intense, and I used to sit meditating for 12 hours a day. I have done that for months on end. And it's because my commitment level was very high, and I always knew I'd travel the world and meditate even as a child. It was the one thing I knew I'd always do. So what I've done is that I've really taken the teachings or techniques, I actually call them technologies, out of all the spiritual principles that I've studied but and practiced. Is the practice that's important more than the study.
Mm-hmm.
So I've taken the principles that really do work, that really do give results, and I'm combining those with spiritual strategies that also give results. So I'm supporting people to really create spiritually aligned lives and businesses where they're tapping into their absolutely highest self, completely making the choices and decisions from that place and creating and manifesting in the world.
What I'm fascinated by is money. There's a thought that sometimes it's not okay to have money, or people in the spiritual world sometimes struggle with. Maybe they have a desire or a calling to do a spiritual type of business or a job, but then there's a block around money. So, can you talk about that?
Yeah, that for me in the spiritual community is really one of the biggest struggles,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what I call a unconscious or subconscious belief system or programming that happens. It's very subtle. It's like you don't even at times realize it's there, but it's so subtle yet it's so powerful and so strong that it is completely blocking and preventing you from allowing your birthright, which is your absolute wealth in every single aspect of your reality,
Mm-hmm.
to manifest with ease and grace. So, the first step is to really acknowledge that you have that unconscious belief system. It's what I call a silent saboteur.
Mm.
So when you name something, you're not judging it. You're not saying, oh my God, I have this belief system and it's really bad and it's really blah, 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 blah. No, you just acknowledge, oh, hey, maybe I have that belief system. Wow, I think I do. That in itself, you are meeting it face to face and you're saying, hey, I recognize you, you're here. And by the recognition in itself, it begins to dissolve,
Mm.
right?
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So then, just by seeing it, by recognizing it, you're basically calling it out and it's beginning to dissolve. And then you have a choice. It's what I call my choice point method. Whereas every time that belief system then begins to surface, because you've called it out, it means you've recognized it, which means you begin to recognize it when it begins to come into play within your lifetime,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you can have the choice. You hit the choice point where when it arises, you choose, do I buy into it and allow it to gain strength? Or do I just say, hey, I see you, and you know what? I'm choosing another way. For example, I recently did a 10-day silent Tibetan Buddhist meditation retreat. And I choose to do silent retreats quite often because you can really dive really deeply within yourself and really root out those silent saboteurs that are preventing you from really being at your best and therefore being of the best service. So it's something that I do on a regular basis. So during the meditation retreat, the Tibetan Buddhist Lama, who I love, he's a friend of mine. I absolutely love and adore him. And this is just part of their belief system, and I understand it. I'm all about eradicating non-supportive belief systems that don't support me to be my best and allow that to shine and help others. So at one point he said something like, don't put your focus on money, put your focus on spirit. I hit my choice point.
Mm.
And I hit it and I said, I recognize what you say and I choose a different belief system. I choose to tap into my birthright, which is unlimited wealth and abundance in every single aspect of my reality, as well as tapping into my unlimited spiritual abundance simultaneously and allowing those to manifest as one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So again, just to recap, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's being absolutely, completely honest with yourself. Do you have that or not? If in doubt, it usually means you do have it. And then secondly, it's choosing to really say, hey, I recognize that you're here without judgment. That's really vital. And then the third point is to consciously choose whether to buy into it again, which is totally fine. If you choose to do that, that's your reality. You're creating your reality. That's okay. Or choosing to say, nope, I'm consciously choosing to create a different reality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff.
It
Simple,
is. Yes.
yet powerful.
Yes. I find that as simple as it is, I know that I have challenges in catching that and not getting caught up in those feelings that come up around, say, money or not manifesting something in my life that I want to manifest.
What also happens as well in the spiritual community, just this is a big part of this, is that people separate spiritualities over here and money's over here.
Mm-hmm.
And they're completely separate and they don't mix together. True spirituality is true wealth in every part of your being. That means true wealth in finances, in relationships, in health, and in spirit and in service and in every part of your reality. There is no separation. It's just the mind, our dualistic mind, that brings in separation.
Mm-hmm.
So once you really understand that there is no separation between spirituality and wealth, that they are one and the same. And that comes again with practice. That comes again with observing when that program arises and choosing which path to take.
Yeah.
Once you really get that, then you realize without a doubt, and it's not even a case that you believe it, you know it at the very depth of your being, that true spirituality is true wealth.
Mm-hmm.
That includes money.
Yeah, the source flow, there is no limitation with source.
There's not. However, we limit it with our mind. We limit it with our belief systems. We limit it with our programming. We limit it with our thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's super important to choose to become really clear. What is it that I'm thinking? What are my belief systems really? What are my subconscious programs? And how can I move those out of the way so that I can really tap into that infinite amount of wealth and abundance that is me, that is my source, and manifest it through into the world so I can really be of the highest service? The more money that we have, the more that we can reach out and help others, to support them to get back on their feet, to support them to have better lives. That's what it's really all about.
Right. It's our job also to continue the flow of money and that prosperity and not just hold on to it, because that's that lack mindset.
Absolutely. So the more that you move those non-supportive belief systems, etc., out of the way, the more that you just naturally tap into the abundance mindset. And you can't force this.
Mm-hmm.
It is a naturally occurring phenomena. The more that you move stuff out of the way, the more you tap into that bigger picture of the abundance mindset. So the more that you just naturally are in that flow, because you realize, what is Tantra, for example? Let's talk about Tantra at the moment. There are so many variations on what Tantra really means. But true Tantra is the true universal flow, and being within that flow in every single moment of your reality.
Mm.
Right?
Lovely place to be.
Yeah, it's fabulous, right? And you know when you're in the flow, and you know when you're not. And when you're
Mm-hmm.
not, you don't judge it again. You just recognize, oh, I've just stepped out of the flow. What was that created that disconnection? Oh, it was this. I see it. I understand it. I choose to acknowledge it, and I'm stepping back into the flow again. So it's a constant for me, at least in my path and with the people that I work with. It's like choosing to have that constant vigilance, which doesn't mean you're uptight or anything, but just having that awareness, and then choosing to employ that awareness, and then bringing in the choice point method.
So I have a question that's coming to mind. It seems like when we kind of go through this process and we start peeling away these layers, these limiting beliefs, brings up more stuff. Do you know what causes that, or why that kind of the everything that is not like what you want comes up and just comes right up in your face?
I kind of say it's like really peeling an onion. As you take off one layer of the onion, you see another layer that was underneath that you didn't see before. So then you peel off that other layer, but there's another layer and another layer and another layer. So what you're doing, our mind is very fast, and our mind has been collecting data. Belief systems are data. Programming their data, their information. It's been collecting all of this information throughout time itself. So, and we're collecting, we live in a world at the moment where data is coming to us
Mm-hmm.
24/7. We're collecting all of that on a conscious and a more on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
So the thing is, it's kind of like this. Like people say to me, they're like, Anya, does it ever come to a point when you have no thought, when you sit really in the silence? And definitely you can tap into that. And definitely as you do deeper and deeper practices, you begin to have more prolonged periods of the silence. But if you ever consider that you're going to be completely without thought, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Thought is a naturally occurring phenomena. And there's nothing wrong with thought at all. However, it's the following of the thought or the attachment of the thought that can drive you crazy. For example,
Yeah.
I could sit here and think, oh my God, what am I really saying? Is this really helping people? It's driving me crazy. I don't think it's helping people at all. And that's me going off and following a thought on a tangent that's non-productive.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the way to really deal with all of these arising of the emotions, arising of the phenomena, arising of the thought, is you just observe it, and you don't attach to it, and you don't follow it. Now people will say, well, that's easy to say, but it's not easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason why spiritual practice is called spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Because it's like everything. Honestly, it takes practice. But for those who are committed to the path and to the journey, honestly, the results are there.
Mm-hmm.
You practice, and the more you practice, and it doesn't have to be a lot. You start off with 5 minutes a day. Then you go to, that's what I did. I started off with 5 minutes a day, then 10 minutes, and then 20 minutes. And then I was sitting for 12 hours, 5 hours straight. I'd need a potty break, and I'd come back and sit 5 hours again without, and that's not everybody's path, but that was my path. It was something that I came here to do. You don't have to do that, because I can share all my secrets I've learned with you. You see, so you don't have to sit for 12 hours a day. That's the point. That's the point, right? Phenomena our emotions, our turbulence, whatever you like to call it, they will always arise until you do hit a certain point where very little arises anymore. But it's not really that the phenomena will arise. It's like, how do you deal with it? How do you respond or react to it when it arises? That's the key.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. So
Yeah.
most of us tend to react to it, or follow the thought, or follow the phenomena, or buy into the story. The trick, choose to recognize it and not buy into it. That's when it dissolves from your space. That is when it loses its power over you, and you begin to master your mind and therefore your reality, and you begin to consciously co-create
Mm-hmm.
your reality from a place of mastery. It's like all roads lead to Mecca. It's like we have, what, 7 billion plus people on the planet at the moment. Each of us are unique,
Mm-hmm.
right? And therefore, we have 7 billion paths going to the same place.
Yeah.
It's fabulous. I love it, right? And that's why, guess what? We're all right.
Yeah. It's a
Right?
journey. It's a journey. It's
Right.
yeah.
Mhm.
If you're in a business or coming from a place of service, you want to be of true service, and then you also want to make money. It seems like there can be a fine line there. So how do you deal with that fine line between being truly of coming from a place of service and making money?
It's like when you're authentically, I would say authentically coming from that place of service, at least for me in my reality, my whole reality is about not just tapping into spirit or source or God when I'm meditating. For me, the true meditation begins when I get up from the cushion.
Mm.
It's about maintaining that state of connection, that state of consciousness when I arise from the cushion, and bringing it into every single aspect of my reality. True spirituality is about true wealth and abundance. So for me, what I do, for example, whenever I set my prices, like I will really sit in a state of very high connection, and I will really become very quiet. I'll get very connected, and I will just ask the question, what is the highest and most aligned price point for this particular offering?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I'll wait for that answer to come, and then I won't even second guess it. I know that it will be the right answer,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that those who are absolutely aligned to work with me, because not everybody is aligned to work with everybody, but for those who are aligned to work with me, they will meet that criteria, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be, $150, or it could be $500 an hour. It really depends. That's how I live my life. Every single choice, every decision that I make, I check in. Is this in the highest and most aligned for me to do that? Which means it's also in the highest and most aligned for my service,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because for me, there is no separation, and then I'll allow that information to come through. And I was speaking to one of my clients this morning actually regarding service. And for me, my service is not when I'm working individually with my clients. It's not when I'm offering a course. My service is 24/7,
Mm.
which means that when I go out for a little bit of a break and have a coffee, I'm still holding that place of connection. I'm still bringing that through, but nobody knows it. I'm not standing in the coffee line with my, fingers together going, oh. No,
Right.
I just look like I'm completely normal, but
Yeah.
I'm completely connected, and I'm holding
Mm.
that place of connection. And if I get a message that, okay, the gentleman who's sitting over there at the third table, he's having a hard time, he needs a little bit of a healing, I'll just connect in and I'll send that to him. He might feel it, he might not. He might know where it's coming from, he might not. It's not important.
Mm-hmm.
What's important to me is to have that connection at all times and be open to being of service at all times.
Mm.
So It is really important, I feel, that you also understand and know your value. So you don't overvalue yourself and therefore cut out a large part of the market who could be working with you.
Mm-hmm.
And you also don't undervalue yourself, because when you undervalue yourself, you're basically saying to spirit, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
I'm not worth, right? So that's why for me, when I really get quiet and connect into that high place, the absolute truth, the aligned truth comes out that will support my community and support myself.
So, what I am wanting to know a little bit more is how you get into that space and then maintain it. And you stay connected, as you say, as you go about your day and as you go out to the coffee shop and wherever. How do you stay connected, but also, in the same respect, keep yourself from absorbing everybody else's stuff?
There is a system that I use, and remember that I have traveled all and lived practically all over the world.
Yeah.
And the reason I did that was to study with different masters, awakened masters and teachers, and it was really beautiful. At one point, I've had the most incredible life. At one point, I actually ended up living at the foot of Mount Everest, foot of the
Mm.
Himalayan mountains,
Wow.
in a hut with a Tibetan Buddhist nun who was a master healer. And
Mm-hmm.
I was her student for a year, and we lived
Nice.
together and we worked together for a year.
Wow.
It was quite incredible. So for me, it's again, it's in order to authentically connect in with the truth of who you really are, spirit, God, Buddha, source, whatever it is that you want to call that. It's all the same to me. I can use any name.
Mm-hmm.
It takes practice. It really authentically takes practice. It takes commitment. Now, why does it do that? What is meditation really all about? A lot of people have this belief system that when you meditate, you're just sitting in the space of absolute bliss and wonder. And yes, definitely, you do get to those states of bliss. And when you do, you're really tapping into a part of yourself that is connected. However, bliss states can also become a trap. So when you tap into a bliss state, you observe that you're in a bliss state. You don't lose yourself in it. And then you choose through that observation, that awareness, to dissolve it so you can continue expanding your state of meditation.
Mm.
So, as I said, it really is about practice. It comes down to practice. Just how committed are you really to tapping into your birthright? Your birthright being to know yourself as spirit, God, or Buddha, moving through this physical vessel in absolutely joy filled, wealthy, abundant service in the world while having an absolute blast at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what it's really all about.
Mm-hmm.
It takes practice. Unfortunately, and I really wish I've been looking for a magic pill all my life. And I say to a lot of teachers when I come across them all across the world, I would just, go up coyly and I would just be like, can't you just hit me in the head or something?
Yeah.
Can't you just give me, a zap that will just do it? And I would ask all of them, why not, right? Why not?
Yeah.
And they'd all be like, no, Anya, it takes practice. Unfortunately, they'd say, I would love to be able to do the work for you, but I can't.
Yeah.
You have to do the work yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's why I was so dedicated, where I would sit for 12 hours a day for months on end, where I have my daily practice, which is at least an hour of meditation, sitting meditation every day. And then I bring that into my life. So to really go back to the foundation of your question, which is, how do you do that?
Mm-hmm.
Right? There are so many different practices out there. And it really is about, I say to people, go out and really find a practice that resonates with you, where you get a result from. right? Where you can
Yeah.
actually say, after you've tried it out for maybe like a month or something like that, where you can actually say, wow, I see a difference with this practice. And when you get a practice that really shows a result for you, then I suggest hunker down, be consistent. The number one thing is to be consistent. Meditation is like taking a vitamin. If you take your vitamin now and again, you might as well not take them. It's a waste of money and it's a waste of your brain space to even remember to take it now and again.
Yeah.
But if you take a vitamin every single day, it builds in strength in your system and it begins to transform your system. Meditation is the same. That's
Mm.
why I suggest with people when they begin to work with me, I will tell them, you're going to be doing this for 5 minutes a day for the next 2 weeks. And then when we check in again, we'll reassess it. Do they continue for 5 minutes or do they go up to 10 minutes? Why? Because I'm setting you up for success. If
Mm-hmm.
I was to say, okay, sit in the corner and meditate for an hour every day for the next month, first of all, you'd be like, well, that's crazy. And secondly, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? We're setting yourself up for failure. So it's about setting yourself up for success. Find a system, a technique, a technology that works for you, and then set yourself up for just a few minutes every day. But every day, 5 minutes a day, be consistent.
Yeah.
Another thing that I feel is really vitally important, and I know I'm kind of old school with this, but I'm not really into the new age stuff because it just lacks depth to me and it lacks the strength that a lot of the traditions do have.
Sure.
All right. Now,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the traditions also have belief systems, and I'm all about eradicating belief systems, but that's perfect. I can tap into an old system that has a very high cultivated level of consciousness that is being transmitted, and I'm choosing not to buy into the belief systems.
Mm.
So, for example, I went to the Tibetan Buddhist retreat recently, and it's a Tibetan Buddhist retreat. So, there's a lot of belief systems around Tibetan Buddhism that I just don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just chose not to participate or buy into energetically to those belief systems. But the Tibetan Buddhist Lama, who was holding the retreat, he had cultivated a very high state of consciousness or awareness, or a very high state, let's use the word vibration, of his mind, of his system.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time during the retreat, he was transmitting this out like a radio, right?
Yeah.
So what I was doing was I was choosing to have a mind to mind transmission with the Lama.
Mm.
So I would basically set the intention that I would open up my mind. I would then feel myself connecting with his very high and evolved state of mind.
Sure.
And I would allow myself to be downloaded so that
Mm.
I could basically incrementally reach up to where he was at. Hopefully, that was my intention.
Yeah.
And use the tool of meditation to purify my mind, to purify my awareness, so that spirit or God or source, as I said, whatever you want to call it, can then have more space to be within me.
Mm.
So the
Yeah.
point I'm trying to make, it's a little bit long-winded, is I would definitely highly suggest is that you find a teacher who has cultivated a very high state of consciousness. And you can usually tell because they tend not to really talk a lot
Yeah.
when you're in their presence. They tend to just be in that state and transmit, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And then I would suggest to get yourself in front of them as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. To be in that
Right.
space and in that energy. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Beautiful.
And then what you can do is that you can bring yourself into your home, sit with your practice, whatever that is, 5, 10 minutes a day, maybe 15 minutes a day. And again, just open up your mind, set the intention. I open up to that state of consciousness. And then you begin to cultivate it yourself at home with your practice, your consistent daily practice.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, you'll begin to see a shift in your reality, employing the tools of not buying into the stories when it comes up, employing the tools of, I see that this emotion, this story has arisen again, and I bring in my choice point and I choose not to buy into it, but I recognize you, I choose to be in my place of center.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're moving out the garbage. It's kind of like you're moving the garbage through your own connection with your higher self.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, if you maintain a consistent practice, you'll begin to notice the difference. And you'll begin to be able to tap into living a spiritually aligned life and business, which is all about joy. It's all about wealth.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. I know that was quite long-winded, but
Oh, that's
does that make
okay.
sense?
No, I love it. I love it. It's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, Aine, for joining me today.
Thank you, Angela. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for listening to The Awakened Goddess. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye.